Like you mentioned, it's a very honest album. It's a very raw album. And I read somewhere, I can't remember where it's from, so it might be incorrect, but that you said, I feel stronger, more creative than ever. How
Yeah.
come?
I mean, I feel like there's been a lot of life that has been lived since my last album. You know, I had a kid, I went on the road, I've had my ups and I've had my downs, and I feel like you you can use all of those things in what you're doing when you get to do something like make music.
Mm.
And I just feel like even though last year was a tough personal year for me, you can use that, you know, and I feel like I was able to.
Especially, well, you have a second child on the way.
Yes.
How has that affected? And the first child, obviously, in between albums, or right around, I think, the last album. That's when your first album was born. So
Yeah.
how has that affected how you approach music and how you think about touring and that kind of stuff?
You know, it's definitely a factor in a kid is definitely a factor in
Mm.
everybody's life. You try to plan around it and try to figure out how am I gonna take, you know, two kids on the road with me. But you know, I'll just figure it out. I feel like that's like a working mom thing, and no matter what you do or where you are or what your job is, you just kind of figure it all out how to juggle, and that is what I intend to do. I think I'll have great days and I think I'll have hard days, but that's just being a mom. So
So that, and with like any other job, I suppose.
yeah, yeah.
There's one other song, and in particular, I want to talk about, which is "The Bullet," which is a very interesting song to me because, well, it's about gun violence in I suppose many forms, but it tackles it from an interesting perspective. So can you tell me about how that song kind of came together?
Well, that was one that I did not write. I wrote most of the songs on the album, but every once in a while you hear a song like The Bullet and you're like, oh my gosh, like that is just so powerful and so emotional. I have to sing that.
Mm.
Um, it was a hard song to sing because it does tackle something that is very difficult. For me, the song was just so well written that it kind of put aside the why this thing happens, and it just deals with the people that are involved, which I feel like is unfortunately something we don't think about that often. Like you see things on the news and you know you see these horrible things happening or somebody lost their life, and obviously you empathize and think that's terrible, but then you stop to think about the parents? Do you stop to think about the children? Do you stop to think about the friends that are involved? And that's kind of what this song is about. It's about all the people that their lives are changed forever because of this awful thing that has happened. And I mean, I just feel like it's just a beautiful song.
Yeah, that I think that I wrote down the line. The camera crews have all moved on. The wound is still open. So yeah, like you say, I like that perspective where it's not just over once the cameras leave.
Right.
It's for these people it continues. So anyway, so I found that a very nice song. Yeah, the title, the Cry Pretty. When did the title come up in the process? Well, did you know early on that you wanted to name the album after a song?
I did not. You know, I went round and round trying to think of words or phrases or other songs that kind of summed up the whole project, and it's really hard naming an album unless you do that like self-titled thing, which I feel like we're kind of past that in my career. It was hard, and I hadn't even decided to record "Cry Pretty," the song, until it was like, okay, I really love this song. Like I feel like it's meaning more and more to me, and wouldn't that make a great album title? And then once I thought of it as an album title, like I saw the images in my head, I saw the video playing out. You know, I just kind of just saw it all happening. So it once the light bulb came on, and I thought this would make a great album title. It was kind of a done deal.
That's interesting. How come you didn't want to record that song initially?
It's not that I didn't want to
Okay.
record it. It's just not one of the initial ones that
Okay.
I had landed on. So I didn't have all of my songs all lined up, ready to go when I went and recorded. I recorded like a few at a time and just kept writing and kept trying to see, you know, what other people would send us, what demos we would get, and that one probably came in somewhere in the middle. And yeah, I decided to do that one after I had already probably recorded a few.
When do you then know in that process when you have enough or you have an album? Because I can imagine it's quite difficult to know when to stop and stop writing. And
It is very difficult to know when you're done in every aspect. We had, I guess, 10 songs recorded. I knew Ghost on the Stereo was one of the last ones we recorded, but one of the first ones I knew I wanted. We were just trying to musically make some things happen. And then I kept writing because I really wanted something that was a little lighter. And we wrote Southbound. So those were the last two that I recorded. And then there was another one that I really wanted to record, but I was getting into the territory of when do you stop? You know, I can't have like 20 songs on this album, or I would. So it was kind of like I just had to say, okay, we have it. You know, there's no piece of the puzzle that's missing. I feel like we've covered a lot of ground, and I feel like adding more would just be adding more. So and then from a producer standpoint, that was kind of the same thing. It's like you can keep tweaking things forever and keep finding things that you don't like, or keep adding things, or keep messing with things, but you're not changing anything. You're just, I don't know. You can tweak forever. So eventually you have to say, we're done. Let's walk away and let's get it to the presses. Let's get it going.
in that sense, then, do you approach albums as kind of singular things, or do you think about the kind of the future and then the whole catalog in a way?
I mean, you have to think about more than just like you have to think about, you know, how are these songs going to sound live? How is it going to be on tour? How are things going to look? Like, I want everything to kind of be an era. I want every album to have a different look and a different feel. And, you know, because this occupies a few years of my life. I feel like a lot of artists kind of come out with new projects like every year, or they're like always touring or something. And I feel like we kind of take our time on some things because I just want to have that creative fuel. I want to live a little life so I can be able to write and, you know, kind of see where am I at in my life right now, and how does this apply to my music, and how do I want to tour, and what do I want things to look like. So I feel like it all kind of occupies like an era of my career and my life.
Right. And in terms of success, I mean, you've had as much success, I think, as one can get. You've won Grammys and all kinds of stuff. What is your ambition in music these days?
Oh man, I mean, I just want to be able to keep doing what I'm doing, but also I want to keep getting better. I mean, I feel like that for me is my ultimate goal. As soon as I don't feel like I'm getting better, I feel like then it's time to say, okay, you know, maybe either I step away for a while and figure out how to get better, or I don't know. But I just always want to be making progress and making steps forward, personally, professionally, vocally, just always be getting better.
Is there something you can share then that you have learned on this album process? Something you kind of figured out or discovered about yourself?
I really enjoyed producing. Okay. That was kind of my first official attempt. Okay. And it's a scary thing when you're taking that much control over what you do, but I feel like it was a great thing for me. It was great for me to get to work with David Garcia. And I feel like musically, we're bouncing things off of each other. And I feel like the two of us working together and me being that much more involved made this project so much better and so much more personal than it might have been if I hadn't done that. So I feel like it was hard. I mean, it involved so much time, I was learning a lot along the way, but it was a really good thing.
I find it interesting. Yeah, I find that's quite interesting because being in the producer's booth and hearing your own voice, well, what do you hear when you hear your own voice and you have to look at it objectively?
Well, I'm very critical of myself. I mean, you know it. Everybody knows when you like hear like a voice message or something, you hear yourself just speaking on a recording and you're like, do I sound like that? Like, I don't sound like that in here, but is that what everybody else is hearing? But I thought it was really good for me to like sit there and listen to my own vocals and, you know, realize what my strengths and my weaknesses are. And I feel like working with David, he was so good at pointing out like emotional differences. So I would sit there and listen to, am I hitting the notes? Like, how am I enunciating? And I would listen to the technical side of things. And he was so great at pointing out the emotion behind like what I was singing, which is not a place I had really looked at before or paid much attention to before, because I was always trying to sound perfect. I know I'm not perfect, but I was always trying to sound technically good.
Then to round off with the line from Kingdom, it's perfectly imperfect.
There you go. And that's something great about, I don't know, about being kind of in the producer's chair and listening to your voice and realizing that there were some moments that were happening that weren't technically perfect, but they had so much more weight and emotion to them. And it was just, I don't know, sometimes it's better to go with the things that are imperfect, because there's more behind it.
Carrie, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.